Welcome to a very special edition of the Mental Space podcast, because today is a very important day in the calendar. It is World Mental Health Day. And the theme this year is prioritising mental health in the workplace. Now, you know that here at Mental, we believe that mental health in the workplace is more than a nice to have. It is a business fundamental. So today, I'm delighted to be joined by a friend of the podcast and a leader who genuinely believes this, Dr. Naim Maadad, who is the CEO, founder of Gates Hospitality. Welcome back to the Mental Space podcast.
Thank you. Delighted to be here, and I'm glad that you have really aced pronouncing my name after all these years.
Pure luck. I can't get my own right. So we talk about mental health in the workplace. That's been an evolving conversation. This year is probably the first year that actually World Mental Health Day is focused on the workplace. So, I mean, we often say we're going to spend 40,000 hours of our life in the workplace, isn't it? Me and you have clocked up a few thousand hours. So I want to take you...
Are you suggesting we're old?
No, I'm suggesting we're experienced.
Mature. I like to think.
But I want to take you back to those first sort of few thousand and your experiences, entering the industry. So rather than with your leadership, with Naim the trainee, Naim your professional rising through the ranks, you'd have worked for some good leaders, I would hope, and some possibly bad leaders. Tell me about how those experiences shaped you and how they affected you back then as well. Not only what you learned from them, but also how you dealt with them at the time.
Look, I often say to myself, I wish I could wind the clock back, because now, what I know now and what I knew then, and the maturity that I have garnered along the journey, if I may, is very different. And I would have dealt with many situations in very different ways. Positive and negative. I think we tolerate a lot at a young age based on fear, based on ignorance, based on I need this to go to the next step, rather than be sometimes firm, decisive, and really speak our mind, because sometimes leaders want to see that side of you as well.
Firm, decisive, speaking, that's difficult for quite a lot of people, to be fair. That requires sometimes maturity, sometimes experience, and sometimes just the wisdom of age where you get a little bit more confident and comfortable, with yourself. Being authentic when you're trying to come up through the ranks can be scary. Take me back, because I can point to 2 or 3 nightmare bosses I worked with before and how they impacted me. Don't name them, but tell me about a time where you were working for somebody that was challenging, and how that impacted you in the moment, but also then what it taught you.
Very vivid memories of that chapter in my life, because I was put in a situation where I was trusted by the seniors of the organization to go into that particular property and discover what was taking place on the ground. It was a very challenging location, very challenging property. And the direct report that I had at the time was the general manager, who was very experienced and very comfortable in his skin, if I may say so. And principally, in my humble opinion, even today, got away with murder. Did very little, but really always at the right place, at the right moment, with the right words to be spoken. Which meant, for a young individual like myself at the time, which meant you were left on your own device to make a lot of decisions. And a lot of those at times didn't actually work in your favor. And when they didn't work in your favor, he was very quick off the mark to say, your fault, rather than anything else, rather than how can we do this better? How shall we kind of avoid this from happening in the future?
What's
and
the learning from this?
Absolutely. It was always, no, let's find the biggest bus and throw Naim under that bus, because it's going to make me look good. I've detected the problem, and it's going to make me safe as well. A lot of these learnings, and frankly, I was very bitter, and I did not handle myself as calm as I should have. At times, I did explode, and the biggest regret I have today is exploding did not happen in the right forums. I don't think there's a problem with exploding as long as it happens in the right room with closed doors and with the right people around the table. But sometimes I think I did let emotion take over and get me into the wrong, even though I wasn't in the wrong. But based on my behavior there and then, I was exposed to being in the wrong. And a lot of it was peer pressure as well, if I may add, because there was people around the table that believed in me and what I'm doing, and I wanted to let them know that I wasn't the weak one around the table. I was going to speak up, but I didn't do that well enough.
So it was a matter of communication, perhaps, rather than
It's a mode of communication rather than the content.
mode of communication.
Yes.
Okay, so and I guess that is, I think 99% of particularly people that get thrust into a leadership position, particularly early on in their career, there is that insecurity. So sometimes I've seen so many leaders, not great leaders, who kind of double down on that situation, double down on how right they are, double down on the emotion of the situation. How long did it take you to realize that there was a different mode, that Naim could express all those same feelings and emotions and facts that you were right, but in a way that might be better received?
Look, it took an awfully long time, and I'm not talking about years or months. I'm talking about a long time for me to deal with it. The scar was very deep, and I was losing trust in my own personal capabilities based on that, which is very dangerous. Time is always controllable, but when you lose that kind of confidence in yourself, it principally impacts your output of work, your personal life, your daily doings, and your behavior and everything else. So that's a danger. For me, that is a danger. If you don't have the right leadership to nurture, develop, guide, support, and really educate to a certain extent, what are you doing? All you're doing is you're causing chaos for the business. You are killing a personality, and equally as important for me, you're doing a lot of damage to this individual, because when he or she leaves the organization, they're going to be scarred. So it's going to take a long time in the new role, in the new country, in the new property to kind of gain confidence, gain comfort, and basically start from where they had left off.
Well, the danger is there is. Well, I mean, I speak personally. I remember when I first finally entered into a kind of management position, is you can become the abused to become the abuser. Like you literally just mirror what you've been taught along the way, which isn't great for businesses. Sure, I completely relate to what you say. It's very difficult in those early days because no one's shown you a different way of leading. Who did show you that different way of leading?
There's a long list. I'm very proud to say there's a long list, and I wouldn't be where I am today if I did not have some amazing individuals in my life who brought different skill sets, who brought different learnings in my world, be it family, be it GMs, be it colleagues, be it genuine friends who bring your name in a room where you're not present. And I think for me that's very powerful, in a good way, of course.
I remember an incident on a golf course. I used to be quite an angry person. I was a very angry golfer. I was a very bad golfer as well. I know you think it was, it's going to golf. But eventually, one of the lads turned around and went, "So Scott, if you carry on like this, just throw my clubs and all sorts of things." And this was when, again, I should have been the shirt. But yeah, well, in the early days of management as well, they were like, "Well, just on the phone with you a bit more." And it was instantly, that was the intervention that almost just went, "Oh," and they come up on my face and go, we don't want someone. And from that moment on, I was never an angry golfer again. I just was so much calmer. I mean, it's simple. So what was the intervention for you? Or was there an intervention for you? What was the kind of the difficult conversation from the mentor, the friend, the partner, that leader that went, "Naim, you know what? There is a better way of doing it." Do you remember? I don't remember it when it all changed.
It was in a glass elevator. I remember vividly, in all truthfulness, where I was told, stop looking at the 2 steps ahead of you, look at the lifetime ahead of you, and where do you want to be? And that resonates with me today. It resonated with me at the time, and equally as powerful for me was, it's like, so right, I'm here for a duration of time. I'm here for a task, for a purpose. So why am I letting individuals change my path based on their behavior rather than my personality, my belief, my education, my culture. And let me look forward to the future. This same individual was a mentor in my career and was in a very senior role as well, which also, let's make no mistake about this, impacted my journey in life. So I was listening to him because he was a mentor, but he also had a very powerful say in the organization on where I was going, and luckily valued what I brought to the equation, valued what I would do and how I'd do things, and often said to me, don't let little ants get in the way. Make sure your eye's always on the elephant.
That's it. Right, you need to copyright that because I'm going to use that loads. But just to kind of dive a little deeper on that for a second, because, and I think it's true in the professional world, but it's also true in our personal world. So that mentor of yours in that glass elevator basically kind of turned around to you and said, stop thinking short term, stop thinking now, and start thinking long term. How many business decisions do you see, within your industry, or do you see here at GCC in particular? It's very short term. So it's not about the long term sustainable performance of people, of teams, of companies, but they just have that short term rush to get across a quarterly P&L or an annual resource and burning teams out. And that's it. So I think in our personal life as well, like we were just so much short term. How big a gift was it that mentor gave you when he told you stop looking at your feet?
Look, it really emphasized that once you define the purpose of what you are, what you would like to do, where you're headed, I think that's the elephant. The purpose is the elephant. If you understand that and really nurture that and keep your focus towards that direction, it's quite simple, frankly, because yes, there will be many ants. There will be baby elephants also in the room along the road. But reality is, it was a very powerful statement. And until today, I often remind myself, and I use the same analogy to my people, saying the purpose is, that's the purpose of the organization. You need to make sure that the organization purpose, your personal purpose, are aligned in order for you to be going places, in order for you to contribute and be content. And I think contentment, purpose, all of these very powerful words, if people understand them and actually apply them to their lives, it's not as often say we only control our actions and our words, nothing else. What happens, we can't really control. So if you control your actions and your words, everything else will define you.
So today is World Mental Health Day. How long have you been aware of World Mental Health Day, and why was it important for you to sit down today and talk about mental health, particularly in the workplace? Why is it important to you?
So as I have mentioned to you before, I was my father passed away 4 weeks before I was born, which, without going into details, was always a huge chip on my shoulder. The fact that there was no father figure in the house, the fact that there was really no male role model in my life daily, not at the work front, daily, growing up. I think I've shared with you the shave story. It's stuff that we take for granted. So I think that to a certain extent, and I think it's very important to stipulate that, particularly if my family is listening to this, that I wouldn't be today where I am if there weren't the best possible support without even knowing what was happening, the person that I am today. So I'm not taking anything away from the family, but the fact that there was no father, there was something missing in my life that I could not actually, personally, I didn't even realize what it was. I just didn't know what that vacuum, that void was in my life, that you often look back and you say, what if I did have, would have we clashed? Would I be a clone of my father? Would I be very similar? Would I be very different? Would we have agreed on things? All the basic stuffs that we take for granted day in, day out, that you can never add to your life as a mental pillar that's going to give you that confidence.
Are you at peace with that void now?
Yes, I am. for multiple reasons. Reason one is I've realized again that I can't change it. I realized that my family, my immediate family, played an incredible role to balance that equation. I also realized that society and the culture, the amount of pressure they put on individuals, is beyond control without even realizing. And the reason that to answer your question, the reason that I'm sitting here and I'd like to think I'm an ambassador for what we're talking about is the entire educational system has to change. And we need to start talking about well-being. We need to talk about openly about wellness. We need to talk about our bodies, how they function. With all due respect, we get taught history and geography and math and science. Amazing. But all we're getting taught is about history or past. But what about this machine? How does it work? How does it work? How do I look after my body to make sure that I'm okay, and I'm in a good space? And I think education at every level really has to be shifting towards deep and meaningful topics that contribute to the society, that contribute to the mental world we're living in, and bring some humanity at the core of everything we do.
Speaking to a parent that was talking to his 8-year-old daughter last night about anxiety and her anxiety and the things that were contributing to that. He's 8. So I totally and utterly agree with you on that one. I think we'll come back to that in a little, if I may. I just wanted to start asking one more personal question, if I may. So having grown up without that male role model in your life, what did the female role models in your life teach you? And what gifts did that perhaps give you? Because you'd have come through life with some different perspectives than, 90% of the people that did go and far, and would naturally gravitated towards the male one, or the male role model.
Sure. Look, again, I think I'll give you a simple example. The TV shows that we watched at home were, I'm going to use a strong word, feminine kind of TV shows, rather than macho fights and cars and noise and 100%. So that defines your personality without you realizing. So there is I've got to be careful what I say here. It's very essential sometimes to look deep down at yourself and say, what is my chemistry? Who am I? What am I made out of? And if you start analyzing that as an individual and start looking at your upbringing and the culture, the society, the community that you were brought up and raised in, it defines you.
Yeah. I mean, our generation, you're a bit younger than me, but it was a very male-oriented, society that we grew up in. Do you think, the fact that, you were raised by your mother and rather than that dual role, did that give you any different perspective? Right?
100%. And I think the awareness factor and being more tuned with emotions, being more in touch with oneself. Yeah. I think it made you think differently. It did not force you, or the male gender did not force you to put this big front that everyone in our age group has today, and we push emotions and we push all of this stuff away because we shouldn't be talking about it.
That remains a massive challenge, doesn't it? I think in leadership teams, right? But both in the people that are led by individuals that still have that massive barrier, that massive stigma, but also for those leaders themselves. Have those gifts that your mother and actually your upbringing given you helped you navigate the challenges of working life any better? That you're a leader now that's talking about emotions, as opposed to there are leaders still out there that are terrified of having this conversation.
As I have already answered, I think, look, it's certainly made me more aware. It certainly made me more outspoken, and amplified the fact that it's not a taboo topic, talking about your emotions. It's not a taboo approach to be saying how you're feeling. I think the danger is, Scott, and I think what I'm also very aware of is that with that education, and I'll go back to my education topic, I think a lot of people will abuse the fact that this could be used as an excuse rather than a fact. And I think there's a fine line moving forward of how do we start making sure that the people that are talking mental, that are talking wellness, understand what the topic is, understand where are the first steps and where are the last steps, and what is acceptable in today's society, in future societies, to be the norm. Otherwise, I can see a lot of people hiding behind this amazing topic that we are talking about today, so for the wrong reasons. And that's very
There will
dangerous.
be a number of organisations that today will be doing media outreach that will not talk about it for another 12 months. I think almost World Mental Health Day is becoming a bit like International Women's Day, where organisations trot out, a press release or a media activation and then put it back in. Thankfully, me and you have been talking about this, but I think it's the fourth time we've been on the podcast, and you've been talking about this for a long time. Talking about that, because we have been talking for 2 years. You were the first person, the first leader I actually did the Mental Space podcast with, and it was important to you 2 years ago. Was there a moment, or when did it transcend from Naim looking after his mental health and seeing what is important to kind of genuinely understanding that workplace mental health is important and it's going to continue to be important? And as we say, it's not just a one-off. It's not just a tick box at the moment. It actually is something that has to be lived, breathed, and understood by the leadership of the organisation.
I do not believe you can separate the two, particularly when you are your own organization, when you are an entrepreneur. You can't separate the two. Otherwise, you're not being true to yourself. So it's always been there. And I think the biggest challenge that we have today in a country like the UAE is what we're blessed with, this multicultural influx of people, which in itself actually adds a lot of challenges because different market maturities, different culture maturities, different openness bring a lot of challenges to the equation. So if you have, I think in Gates today, we have 46 nationalities, which again, we are on the small side. I think there's 201 nationalities in the UAE today. So you can imagine the different levels of approaches, understanding, appreciation of our topic today and where it is evolving in the world, which means your starting point always has to be at a very entry level in order to make sure that you capture everyone, you make sure they're understanding the purpose of the discussion, the topic that we're talking about, and embracing it and adding value to it.
We've long worked together and we're going to continue to work together. And I'm really looking forward to our continued partnership with Gates. I wanted to ask you one question, which is, if we talk about the entry level, what do you think the building blocks, just those fundamental 2 or 3 things that an organization can just focus on as a starting point, as the entry level to the workplace mental health, the theme of today's World Mental Health Day?
Again, 4 pillars for me. One is, I've spoken about education already, and by education, I'm talking about making sure that if you educate your teams, your organization to deliver what the organization purpose is, then you'll be surprised how powerful that entity becomes. So education is very powerful. The second one is confidence. And by confidence, obviously confidence comes through the educational part. But with that, I think the confidence that I'm actually referencing here is making sure that they don't feel they're going to be crushed if they made an error. If they made a mistake, it's not going to be the end of their career or the end of working life with us or an organization. So that confidence. Third pillar for me, it's making sure that leaders are not an obstacle, but merely a facilitator. So I don't want them to become specialists in the topic. I don't think there are many specialists, but I want them to embrace the topic generally. And the biggest commitment that we can have in an organization is to put people in the right direction, to send them to get help if that's what it takes, to listen to them in the right forum if that's what it takes, to give them guidance based on our experiences. So facilitation. And the last one is, honestly, I'm a great believer that the generations that are working at the moment and the generations that will work soon or are entering the workforce, very different beasts. And the way that these generations are selecting organizations and selecting their workplace is no longer based on the package and the hours of work, but it's based on principle. It's based on company culture. It's based on flexibility, and it's based on, can I have a say? No matter where I come from, no matter what color skin I have, can I be equal around the table in what I had? And those 4 pillars for me will make that
change that we are longing for, that generational divide between boomers and Gen Xers, down to the millennials, the Gen Zs, and the Gen Alphas coming through. Do you think there's enough conversation between the generations? It feels like they, yeah, and again, that's a byproduct of psychological safety if you can be creative with an organization, is the boomer learns from the Gen Z as much as the Gen Z needs to, and sometimes needs to stop this and then listen to a bit of that. Do we think we have enough cross-generational communication in organizations? Because it feels like sometimes there are, and hope, maybe Gates is getting us better. That conversation is very silo, where Gen X sees the Gen X and rolls their eyes at the Gen Z.
Yeah, look, it's growing pains or growing businesses that I think it's a tough phase we're going through because the confidence level at this level is not there yet. So in order for that to take place, it's going to be a work in progress. I think what the benefit of IT, what's happening in the IT world today, the benefit of COVID, if there are any, is they have actually helped us shift that focus a lot deeper and facilitate today that gap bridging. I think the whole social media today, I think the baby boomers don't have a choice but to engage. So it's forcing individuals to open communication lines and forcing old school mentality individuals to say, well, very soon, if not already, I'm going to be outside of the happening space.
Unless I change and unless I begin listening and learning, which is possible. You talk about confidence, and that's an issue. We see the levels of insecurity. We see the levels of stress. I mean, every single study that comes back about stress levels in this part of the world and across the world, really, really high. I wanted to talk about resilience for a second. And your kind of take on resilience. How do you stay resilient? Because you've been through some business challenges this year. We've seen the closures of iconic venues like Folly. Thank you for bringing that up. No, I know. I'm sorry. But we're having an open and honest conversation. There's going to be. Tell me how you went into announcing that, because that's got to be, that's got to be difficult for you because you've created them. They were born out in gates. They had tremendous success. You've seen teams flourish. You've seen awards come. And then you have to migrate through these agencies to the fact to make a difficult business decision that affects both the people that work there, but also there is that pride within you. So how have you dealt with all of that? And then you had the added social media, and people always going to say something. So how have you coped with that? How have you dealt with that?
Yeah, you referencing the whole thing as past tense. It's not past. We're still going through it. It's still resilience is about ongoing. So yes, look, we've made some. I have made some very tough decisions. But again, I think running a business, it's not about eating ice cream. Running a business is making tough decisions. And as long as you can justify those decisions with the commercial aspect, with the human capital aspect, with trends and relevance aspect, it's okay. So our exit from our last location of 2 very strong brands was a very tough decision. I prolonged the decision unashamedly as long as I can for let's try this and let's try that. So it wasn't an overnight decision. It was a well calculated decision. It was a very well thought out exit strategy, and I think our best approach was to go publicly and announce the closure, which again in our industry, any industry as a matter of fact, nobody tells you they're closing. Everyone tells you we're opening and we're busy and we're doing well. Nobody tells you reality. Let's be honest. Nobody tells you I'm unemployed. They all tell you I'm a consultant. Let's be honest. So I think reality is, and I get called many names, but one of my favorite is say it as it is. And I always say it as it is. And I don't regret saying it as it is, because that's what makes me who I am, and that's what sets me aside from the pen pushers, the non-decision makers. But one last thing, I think now that you bring the topic of Folly closure, early next year, Folly relaunch of the Folly Brasserie is going to be unannounced, and unashamedly as well. What I'm going to do is the same letter that I put out to the public announcing the closure, I'm going to put out to the public saying, we did close, we did announce the closure, we did promise you that we're coming back, and unlike every other colleague in the industry, we are coming back, and here is where we're going.
How important is that honesty to you? Because and how important is that honesty to Gates? Because I've seen, and we see lots of headlines these days about how we see companies trying to hide away from the truth. We see companies trying to hide away from that honesty. And often things get leaked to the media before teams have been spoken to. How important is it to have that honesty and that honest communication with your teams? How much buy-in does that give you? How much resilience does that create within an organization when you have to go through difficult times if you are authentic and if you were honest?
Yeah, it's a very powerful tool. I think honesty, directness, transparency as very amazing terms that a lot of companies put them part of their directives.
They write them on the walls.
They put them up on the walls, but they don't dust them very often. It's very essential, and what it adds to every discussion, what it adds to every topic, Scott, I think it's important to highlight. It adds complexity, because sadly, no one's willing to listen to the truth. People are more comfortable with listening to a story that they know well that's not going to materialize, rather than actually accepting that this is the truth. This is going to happen. This is exactly what he said. And that itself is a challenge. Nonetheless, like I said, it has set us aside as an organization, and I think it's defined the culture, the business, what it is today.
So if we map back to today, mental health in the workplace, historically in your industry, the hospitality industry, that's been a challenge. How have you seen that conversation change? You've been having the internal conversation. We've done roundtables in the past. We've had these conversations. You've been having that conversation inside your organization. How have you seen that conversation change in your industry? How far has it come? How far does it need to go?
Again, without blowing my own trumpet, I'm being called the godfather of the industry for two reasons. Because I think we're defining what should be done. And I think defining that, it's not going to happen overnight. People will not follow suit very quickly. Nonetheless, I think people are realizing that the end user is extremely happy with what shape we're taking. The team members that we have are leaving, but when they do leave, they come back, which is, again, very powerful. And then last but not least, sustainable businesses are not made of continuity only. They're made of purpose, definition, and purpose follow through.
You talked about that earlier when we started the conversation as well, that putting people on the right path. I see lots of organizations that when people leave they have that attitude of, well, you're never coming back, and they take it as almost as an affront when people leave the organization. How powerful is it if you send people off with a wave and a smile and a best fortune, but also leave the door open?
If they deserve that treatment, I do it often, and often they come back sooner than later. Nonetheless, that doesn't mean that a lot of times we say thank you and goodbye, because, again, it misfit for the culture. So I don't think there's a right, there's a wrong, but for those who, at the end of the day, everyone paves their own path.
That's kind of, well, not kind of, it's an important point there, in that in lots of big organizations, and we've seen the science behind, if someone's not right for the culture of the organization, sometimes it's very organizations shy away from making that difficult decision, that where they'll keep an employee in the company, even though they're impacting 15 people around them, or they're impacting the mental health of the 15 people around them. So again, that ability to take difficult decisions.
I'm smiling for the simple reason. One of the 4 brand pillars and the 4 are engage, belong, enrich, innovate, right? So belonging, if I was to say belonging. So fitting and belonging are very, very different. So I saw a picture recently of a garlic clove, and one of the cloves was removed and a mandarin was put in there. And it says it fits, but it doesn't belong. And that is very powerful. So what fits doesn't necessarily belong. So unless you belong, you don't gel, you don't become part of the success story, you don't become part of the culture. So fitting and belonging, I think, are very different, despite the fact that if you were to look up in a dictionary, they may have similar definitions.
You bring it up today, elephants and ants, garlic and orange, look. Okay, look, I'm going to take it back personal again to Naim one last time, because you've been super generous from the time you was are. Your industry, like many industries, involves long hours, tiring work as well, and takes you away from your family. How are you, and you talk about 46 different nationalities, or 42, 46 nationalities with engaged, lots of employees away from their families, just by the nature of the fact that they're expats here in Dubai. How do you deal with that? And how do you in your industry? Like, what are the ways you cope with the separation?
Look, I hear a lot of companies talking about we're a family and we should treat one another like a family. Absolute nonsense. Reality is what we should be doing is defining a culture that people know that you are respected in that culture. And if respect takes shape and place, everything else falls into place, because no one's going to replace my mother, no one's going to replace my sister, no one's going to replace my daughter, no one's going to replace my father. They are who they are. Now, does that mean I will have a new set of friends that I feel very comfortable and very much at ease with working and perhaps enjoying some off time together and perhaps enjoying activities together? Absolutely. And that is how we define those parameters, by making sure that the culture is very transparent for people to say we respect one another no matter where you come from or what language you speak and what you eat for dinner or lunch or breakfast. That's your own privilege. But as a team, this is how we function and how we operate. I've often said, Scott, we define the playground. So if you play within this defined playground, you're safe, you're protected, you're nurtured, you're developed. But if you play outside and you fall, you're on your own.
It's 3 now.
He's a lifeguard.
Yeah. Last question. I'll give you the mic for a moment. But okay, so we're having this conversation on World Mental Health Day, 12 months time for today, 2025. What would you hope will have changed in your industry, or just in general, about mental health in the workplace and the conversation that's being had?
Multiple things, and all positive. I think there is a movement, if I may call it movement. I think people are aware of the topic. People are trying to embrace the topic at different densities, if I may say. That's one. Two, it's, as you know very well, within my own organization, we're hosting some sessions for the team members at very different levels to come in and engage and talk about what it actually means. Nothing else. We're not going to find solutions. We're not therapists. We're not physicians. We're not practitioners. All we do is we facilitate and we help them understand that if there is a problem, that's the path you need to take in order to find solutions. So that message. And then last but not least, look, I'm hoping other organizations will also join this movement and help make this topic a normal topic to talk about, not a taboo, and not a gender-driven, and not a color-driven, but becomes a global unisex, everything.
Just woven into the fabric of normal conversation, as if you've broken your toe, you talk about fight through it.
100%. And look, we're seeing that, again, we're blessed with our location, with our country, with our leadership. Those discussions are coming at that level. And I genuinely believe this takes every sector of the community, the society to drive, and that's taking place. And if they do take place, usually at this level, they filter through a lot rapidly than starting from bottom up.
Fascinating. Yeah, you talk about the government. Hey, you've got Dubai here, just literally within the last few weeks, launched the mental wealth framework. And that's 105 million dirhams that Dubai is pouring into the mental wealth conversation. One of the big things they're talking about is burnout, is stress, and all that kind of Islamic culture. So it genuinely feels like the direction of travel is more well-being and more understanding than the last. Naim, as always, fantastic of you to join us on the Mental Space podcast. Thank you for being here with Mental Health, World Mental Health Day, pretty important day in the calendar.
Thank you, Scott.
If you've enjoyed this conversation as much as I, as always, please subscribe. It helps us more than you know. If you're watching on YouTube, the button is right there. Just hit it. It takes 30 seconds. And please share this conversation with your friends because it's an important one. Thank you very much.